Right, hiya folks, we're out here in the garden. It's really hot out here. I shouldn't probably really be doing this out here, but we've got this old seat out of this old BMW which Jimmy's got, and he's trying to clean the interior up, but these seats are really rough, so I thought I'd have a little go at possibly repairing them and maybe repainting them as well. So let's have a closer look at them. This one's the driver's seat, and as you can see, it's got a couple of wear-through marks there, and also all the surface seems to have gone off of this bolster, which is quite a common thing on these BMWs. The rest of the seat, it's got the telltale cracking signs, and they're basically generally really worn, and these were really covered with mould as well, although they have been washed down. But as you can see on the bolsters, they suffered mostly with this sort of deep cracking here as well. And if we come around the back, you can see the mould that's still on them back cases there. So these plastic cases, I'm going to really try and get off. Even the ones around the side, they all want a good clean up. So as I say, these seats were fully mouldy, but we've given them a wipe down, and this is what we're left to work with. So this is only the driver's seat. The passenger seat is in similar condition, and the back seats are also as bad. So first of all, what I think I'm going to do is try and remove these plastic shrouds, get the headrest off, and probably remove these lower shrouds as well, so that we can make sure there is no mould left on the seat before we sort of work on these and try and get these back to sort of a good looking interior. So let's try and strip some of this down. Again, I don't know how this comes apart, but we'll have a go anyway. So let's turn that over onto the side. There must be some sort of screwage underneath, maybe, I don't know. So as I say, I'm not sure how these come off. I would imagine they would just clip off, maybe, I'm not sure. These ones here, the seat controls, there appears to be a little plug in that one that pulls out, possibly. There is a screw there, I can see, going through there, so that'll have to be undone. And there's got to be something on this side as well, I would have thought. And there's another plug there. I think that just pulls out. There we go. It's just tight, folks. They're just tight, they do pull out. I think you can push the bottoms up. There we go. Right, that's what you got, folks. Look, you got a locating clip at the top there, and you come in the bottom, just push them springs together, and that enables you to pull back. There you go. No way of knowing that unless you've done it before, I suppose. And that's dated 24th of the 2nd, 1997. How about that? And that bit's 20th of November, 1996. I'd imagine these ones are pretty much the same. There's one out. There's two out, and these top ones should now just push upwards. There you go. Right. That can be fully cleaned up, folks. And as you can see, same again. Them two bottom clips go in, and then they just push upwards. Let's try and get these little plastic clips out now. There we go. There's one out there. Right, so these ones are T30s, folks. One there. There we go. And one more of those little plastic retainers on the front. They just pull forward, stick a screwdriver behind them, and hopefully that should come off. So all we've got to do here is push in two little clips there. There we go. That's it, another bit off. You can leave that on there, I think. Let's turn it around. Another little one out there. Another little one out there. Oh, I see, there we go. There we go, folks. And another little one down there, look. There we go. That's out of the way. Why do so many different manufacturers have so many different ways of clipping things in? Oh, I see. I see. Stick the screwdriver in there, folks. Pull it forward. Okay, folks, we got a bit cut off there because the battery went flat on the GoPro. So, anyway, let's try and clean these down a bit now. The leather's looking a bit grubby, although I have given them an initial wipe over. We'll give it a wipe down anyway. So, I've got some G101 here in a container with a spray container, 50% with water. And all I'll do first of all is I'll just sort of see what sort of condition it's in, and without being too sort of aggressive, first of all, I'll just do a little panel, and already I can see that G101 making a difference on this back panel here, this bolster unit. If I do half of it, and then we'll have a closer look at it. Again, you haven't got to be too aggressive, you just need the right cleaners at the end of the day, and I'm finding that G101 is a very good all-round cleaner. So that's just a little bit of work there. So if we get our cloth, microfiber clean, yeah, look at that, look, it's pulled it right off, look. That's not bad at all. So if I just go over the whole seat now, folks, I hope you can see the difference between that there and a bit further down there with just that little bit of work. So I have got a couple of drill attachments to go into my battery drill if I feel the need to give it a bit more agitation, maybe on the seat base for example, but I'll play that by ear. So I'm just going to go over now with the whole seat, clean up the leather before we go to the next stage of starting the repair work. So I'll see you in a minute.
I stand by you when you're falling, when the river is calling. I said I love you forever, we can make it together. What goes up must come down, there's lots of friendly faces all around, and nothing's ever lifting me higher than a touch of your sweet desire.
So that's probably taken about 5 minutes, that, folk, in reality. To be honest with you, I definitely think these have been painted before, because it's actually bringing this old colour out as well. So that G101 is really a good cleaner for the leather. It seems to be doing a marvellous job. Let's show you the change so far. So I'm sure you can quite clearly see there the difference it's made. As I say, it looks like that there has been some sort of colour on here before. You can see where colours run probably before, where they've dabbed it on. But I'm not sure whether or not it's been filled before. But I will be giving this a dry off with a hairdryer afterwards, before I start sanding these cracked areas. And then I'm going to apply like a filler over them areas there. Exactly the same with what I've got up here as well. It's got to be dried off as well first, folks. So yeah, we're nearly there. We're just going to do that little panel there, come around the sides, do them little bits there, do there, and also that little back section there as well. So far I've not had to use the battery drill and the rotary brushes like that. Not had to use it. These little sort of detailing brushes are like just soft bristles, and they seem to be doing the job fine, just to give them a good sort of spin around when you're doing it. Right, I'll carry on with this and I'll come back to you when I've finished, and then we'll get on to the next stage. Right, so I had to hold fire on the seat on this instance, folks, because it did start to rain, so I put it under the gazebo. So I thought I'd tackle the worst panel of all. That's the back panel behind the seat, and as you can probably see, I'm having a little bit of trouble getting it off there, but once it's off, this thing was totally covered with mould, but the G101 and the wire brush seem to do a good job at removing all that stuff. As you can see, this was on the inside. The only way to get to this was to take it apart, and look at the job it does there, look. So just finishing off the back panel now, and again, I don't think this is going to need to be repainted. It may have one more surface clean when I get it back on the car, but that's probably about it. And these brushes are definitely a great idea for getting off the stubborn marks. Right, folks, there you go. That's a little bit better, isn't it, than what it was before, covered in all that mould in there. All inside there is all totally clean now, as you can probably see. Yeah, I don't think I really need to paint that, to be honest with you. It's got a couple of little marks on it. I may persevere with them, but if we can get it all to that sort of standard, happy days. Right, folks, that's the seat nice and clean now, or as clean as I'm going to get it. And you'll notice that when you rub your hand over it, you'll feel like raised bits. That's where the leather or whatever's been on there before is sticking up in the air. So I'm just going to take some 500 grit sandpaper and just rub them areas down lightly. I don't know if you can see them there, but there's just some raised little bits there. Just want to take the edges off them and just smooth them out a little bit, because I want to be filling these areas and you don't want the bits sticking up. And so far you can probably see that, the difference that's made already, compared from that bit there to that bit there, where you can just see little bobbles sticking up. So just gently, get 500, just do panel by panel by the looks of it. I think that's the easiest way. So I'll work on this panel first here, then I'll move on to the next panel. There we go, I'm quite happy with that. There we go. I will give that one final dust over with some degreasing agent when I finished it, but just work my way around the seat like that, folks, just where it needs it before we get on to the next preparation. That's going to be filled. Just take out the high spots on it. Again, I'm no expert, folks. I've just watched a few videos and I decided to have a go myself because it didn't look too hard, or should I say it was a learnable skill. And anything that's learnable, done by humans, it's worth having a go at to save a few bob. That'll take a little bit of filler now. Let's just try and do a little bit here. I might have to put a little patch behind that, folks, just as a bit of backing, so we'll see how we go with that. I will put a layer of filler over all this. Because there is a rip there as well, folks. But it's going to be better than what it was, folks, I think you'll find. Right, so I'm just going to go around this now, folks. Just give it a light sand where needed. Mostly on this front. I don't think anything around the back needs doing. And I'll come back to you when I've done that. Right, okay then, folks. I've given the whole seat now a rub down with some isopropyl alcohol, just to get all the final bits of dust off it. And we did have quite a bit on it, as you can see there, look. So that's what's come off of it, even after the cleaning. So always good to do that. And what I've got now, I've got this stuff. It's called Leather Flex Fill, and it is a sandable filler which comes already prepared. So I'll just give that a little bit of a stir up. I've got these little applicator knives here, and I've also got a spreading spatula for the larger areas. So I'm just going to make sure it's all mixed up correctly. And again, I've never worked with this before. I've done a bit of body work, so we're going to have to build it up in layers, I gather, and we can dry it off with a heat gun afterwards. So we're learning together here, folks. So I'm just going to get some and just try and fill up that little hole there for the moment. Again, I'm going to have to build up in layers with this, I think. And this area here, you've just got to sort of spread it on and just sort of fill the cracks up as you go. We've got some bare leather there, as we know, folks, so I'm hoping that will sand down correctly. We have got another little hole there, which I'll just try and build it up. So we're getting there. It does fill the cracks up pretty nicely, folks. It's starting to go off now, I can feel it. There we go. All I can do is have a go, folks. There we go, look. Just sort of flick it up, look. And it would just start to rain, folks, wouldn't it? Got to get this under cover pretty quick. So that's that mission aborted for a bit. I'll come back to you when it stops raining. See you in a minute. Okay folks, it's the next day now, so this stuff's gone off now, and all I'm going to do now is just give it a little sand down, a little light sand down before we actually apply the colour. So let's have a go at that. And all I've got here is some 500 grit wet and dry paper basically, so I'm just going to give that a little sand down. Not too mad, just to slightly give it a key up and take away any high spots that may be there. So literally just a light sand down. Just where there may be some creases. Again, we're not perfectionists here, we're just a beginner. So don't shoot me if I'm doing it wrong, people. All I'm trying to do is to improve this car seat or the interior to make it look better than what it did. It couldn't have looked any worse, to be honest with you. See, just where I've left sort of little marks there, look, with the filler. Just smooth them out a bit. I mean, you can go on and on here. I mean, for example, these deep creases here, which are now fixed, you can go over them again and again, but it depends what you want to achieve at the end of the day. As I say, I'm not looking for perfection here. And there's a big crease here, which there's nothing I can do. That's like a sag, so there's nothing I can really do about that. So let's just rub this final bit down here. Again, if you remember this was all sort of bare leather feeling, so I'm hoping that's nice and smooth now, and that we're going to sort of lose that bare leather feel. I mean, there's slight texture there still. You can go even further over that, but I'm happy with that as it is, to be honest with you. So I'll just give it a wipe down with a cloth. Let's try and apply some colour, shall we? Right, I've got this, I think it's called Scratch Doctor leather colorant. So I'll give that a shake up, and then afterwards you seal it in with this leather finish. So that's the system that I've got here. And this is, as I say, pre-coloured. It's going to be a different colour than the seat because they only do a limited amount of colours, but seeing as we're going to do everything, I didn't think it really mattered too much. This is an ivory sort of colour. They're ivory. So I'm not worried about it being a different colour. I'm just going to put some of that in a container first of all. And all I've got is a little piece of sponge there. I wanted to have one of those little, you can buy them little brush sponges that are very thin. I was going to paste it on that way, or I was going to even spray it on as well, but I've just decided to have a go with this first. So let's have a little go and see what we can make this look like. It's going to take 3 or 4 coats, folks. So the first coat is normally not very good, so that's just to let you know I'm not expecting perfection on the first coat. Right, okay, so I think we're dust free. I think the best way to approach this is a panel at a time, maybe, I don't know. And again, you only need thin coats. If I get it down in that crease first. That may look too bright, folks, but as I said to you, don't worry about that. Right, I've had to move it under here, folks, because of the rain, and it looks very blotchy, as you can see, just after the first coat. I wasn't expecting anything more than this, to be honest with you, because I've seen other people do it, and it looks pretty much the same. But that's the first coat over with. I'm going to let that dry now, because I've got to go down the road. And I don't know whether this is the actual best way to apply this with this sponge, and I should have put a glove on, folks. I'm not sure whether this is water-based. I'm hoping it is, but yeah, there we go. Not looking great at the moment, but this area here, I'm hoping it's going to look a lot better anyway. So I'll come back to you when we are ready to put the second coat on. Right, it's probably about an hour and a half later now, folks. It did start to rain, that's why I had to go under that cover there. We'll have a look at it in the daylight. This is water soluble, it does come off with your hands anyway, so with water, sorry. So it doesn't look the greatest. As you can see, it goes on very streaky, but there again, I've seen other people apply it exactly the same way, so I'm pretty happy with the way this is coming out at the moment. There's a couple of little divots still there, but again, this was all bare leather, if you remember rightly, so I'm actually not too bad. I'm not too unhappy with that, but we'll give it a second coat now and see how that applies. So I haven't got me gloves on again, folks, but I've got my little sponge here. Comes out nice and easy, but this may or may not be the best way to do it, as I say. So we'll just see how it goes now. On with a second coat. Right, I'll just carry on, folks, and we'll see how it looks after two coats. Right, folks, I'm not quite happy with the way that's going on, so as I've got a spray gun, I'm going to try a little drop in the spray gun. First of all, it's all trial and error. I've never done this before, as I said to you, so let's whack this in the gun. I've seen other people spray it on, but as I say, I've never done it before, and that sponge technique don't seem to be working all that well, in my opinion. I don't know. So I'll put some in here. I'm going to spray it 2 bar, which is 28 psi, and see how we go. So let's go from here first. Oh, that goes on better, folks, doesn't it? That goes on better. That's far better. Look at that. Tell me what you think of this. I'll get it in that crease first. There we go, look at that. Oh, that's a lot better. Why didn't I do this to start off with? Yeah, just lower the pressure to about just over 1 bar. So let's just have a go at that. Oh yeah, that's better. Spraying's definitely the way to go, folks. That's all I'll say there. There you go, look at that, look. How's that look? How's that look, eh? That's far better, isn't it? So that is the second coat now, folks, and as I said to you, the spraying is a hell of a lot better, and that area, although not perfect, it's definitely 100% better than what it was with that big mark there. The cracks are filled in pretty nicely, so when you view the seat sort of from this sort of angle, well, that needs one more coat by the looks of it, folks. It's looking pretty good. So although I've seen people do it successfully with a sponge, definitely from my perspective, that spray gun has made all the difference there. So what I'll do now, rather than wait for this to dry off in the sun, for example, I'm going to use a hot air gun. I'll dry it off with the air gun, give it its final coat, and then we've got this leather finish which you put on. Apply this sealant by spray or with a sponge. Leave it then for 24 hours and then you can use the leather. So that will be the final stage, folks. So I'm going to get on with that and I'll see you in a minute. Okay folks, that's it. That's all I'm going to do. The only thing I've got to do now is wait 24 hours before I give it its final coat of leather protection. So I've put the trim back on. It's not quite the colour, obviously, but we knew that anyway. But it's definitely a lot better than what it was. Let's show you around it. So as you can see, the leather now is covered lovely. I'm well pleased with that finish. All right, this ain't the greatest at the end of the day, but it's going to be better than what it was, definitely, because that was all bare leather there, as you can remember. And we had all these major cracks that were down here again, have smoothed out a bit. But what you can get, which I didn't realise, to keep the leather texture, because when you sort of apply that, it takes the grain away. There's the sort of natural grain of the leather there. And as you can see there, for example, when I come further down, where I applied some of the filler, it takes the grain away. So you can get a piece of leather and put it over there when it's wet and then just pull it off and it'll put the texture back in. Again, it's a learning curve at the end of the day, but there we go. I've put the panels back on now. Again, different colour, I know, but all we were looking for was to get this thing looking a lot tidier than what it was. It was covered in mould. The seats were basically all cracked at the end of the day, and standing from this sort of angle, not bad. Okay, wrong colour, but there you go. We can't help that. So there you go, folks. That's my first attempt at repairing leather, and lessons learnt so far on my first project is, one, make sure you've got the right colour. We're going to be doing them all this colour, so that won't make any difference in this case. So that's the first one. Do a leather test first. The second thing is that if you're applying the filler over a large area with the palette knife, you may want to have an old bit of leather so that when you've applied it, you just put it face down and then pull it off again, and that will leave a leather texture like transferred onto that paste, so that when you come to sort of paint it, you've still got that leather sort of look there as well. That's the second thing. The third thing is, don't bother with a sponge. Spray gun. Absolutely fantastic. Full coverage, proper coverage, without any blotchiness. I probably would have had to have done 4 or 5 coats the other way. I've managed to get away with 3 coats doing it this way. So that's just the 3 things that I've learned. So I've got 2 more seats to practice on. You may or may not see that. You'll probably see these back in the car when they've all been finished. This is a leather finish product which I've got here. And this is a matte one, so it won't leave it glossy at all. And you basically give this 2 to 3 coats. It says you could do this with a sponge, and then 24 hours later it's ready to be used. That seals everything in. So there you go, folks. I've just got a couple of little bits of tidying up to do, things like get the paint off of this seatbelt clamp. I should have taped it all up. That's another thing. Make sure you tape up what you don't want to paint. So yeah, there you go. Just my little novice experience on leather seat refurbishment. I'd feel a lot more comfortable now if I was repairing another leather seat with the experience I've just gained doing this one, and hopefully you can glean some information off of this too. Anyway, thanks very much, folks. We'll see you in the next video, and until then, bye for now.